One man is dead after a shooting in Monroe. We have got the details.
And Louisiana is leading the way in the amount of STDs, what the state is looking to do to cut that number down.
And we will soon know who the new Miss Louisiana will. A teacher of the year killed in Concordia Parish. 2 people arrested. We are live at the scene.
And the storms that moved through our area overnight scattered debris and down power lines.
And 63 alleged child predators arrested in Operation Broken Heart.
Right now, KNOE 8 News Live at 10, your breaking news and weather authority.
And I'll see him someday. So rest on, my child. Rest on.
2 arrests after a teacher of the year in Natchez is found dead. Good evening to you. I'm Jennifer Andrews.
I'm Jeff Horchak. Well, police found Frederick McCray Jr. under plywood and garbage in Faraday. Perry Robinson joins us after speaking to the family of McCray. Now, Perry, how are they holding up?
Well, Jeff, Fred was a teacher, a son, and a staple between 2 different communities. Those that knew him are now searching for ways to cope with his untimely death.
Fred McCray sent a text to his mom Sunday night saying he was on his way home. Williams had no clue that would be the last time she speak to her son.
Very shocking, heartbreaking, unbelievable.
On Sunday night, Concordia Parish deputies say McCray offered to give suspects Jimmy Lewis in Cedric, Tennessee, a ride to Faraday. The suspects robbed and killed McCray, dumping his body under plywood and garbage at an old dog food plant. Family and loved ones are still in shock.
He just was a good child. I love him like he was my flesh and blood.
I would always look up to him and walk in his footsteps in a way.
Williams didn't say who, but one of the suspect's parents reached out to offer condolences.
She expressed to me how, as she was strolling down his Facebook page or some page she was looking on, how he was such an inspiring young man and had a whole lot going on, and how well she just knew he would have achieved great things in life. And she gave me her condolences of how much she knows she couldn't bring him back, but how deeply sorry her family was.
Friends, like McCray's fraternity brothers, are focused on the memories that made him special.
His energy, his smile lights up a room. Like, he could walk in and it could be gloomy just like it is outside. Like, earlier today it was gloom, but now the sun is out, and his smile has that kind of effect.
If given one last chance to speak to her son, this is what Williams would say.
His last words to me was, "I'm headed home." Didn't know that headed home would mean physically the home where I am, but the home to be with our Father. And I'll see him someday. So rest on, my child. Rest on.
Well, the school website shows that McCray taught 8th grade at Morgantown Middle School and was named the 2019 Teacher of the Year. McCray had just completed his 2nd master's and was starting on his doctorate degree this fall. Jeff, Jennifer.
Thank you, Perry. A man is accused of breaking into a home and stabbing someone over the weekend in Monroe. He has been arrested. Now, police say a victim told them that Buell Blackwell was drunk and tried to start a fight. The Blackwell then forced himself into the victim's home, punched him, then stabbed him in the chest. Blackwell is also accused of punching a pregnant woman and stabbing her in the abdomen. Now, the victims did survive. Blackwell has been charged with attempted second-degree murder and home invasion.
Meantime, a statewide sweep landing 63 people in jail in Louisiana. They were busted during Operation Broken Heart for allegedly enticing children for sex and trafficking. Attorney General Jeff Landry says the arrests were made between April 1st and May 31st, and he has a warning about kids online.
So treat them just like a weapon, right? It takes responsibility to be able to use them. Make sure that you understand that, and so I'd start there.
These sex predators throughout our country and here in Louisiana, in my parish, they have no boundaries, and working together to bring them to justice is what it's all about.
Landry says the bust also targeted people involved in child pornography.
Well, 146 new jobs are heading to West Monroe. Officials say Coast Professional is spending $750,000 to renovate a former Sears hometown store to expand its debt collection center. Now, the jobs will pay on average more than $36,000. It already employs 125 workers. In return, it gets a state tax credit of up to $3,500 for each job created. Well, Louisiana Congressman Ralph Abraham announced $719,000 for 5 regional airports. Now, he says the federal money is for improvements at the Winsboro Airport, along with those in Marksville, Vicksburg, Tallulah, Gina, and Morehouse Memorial. Now, Abraham says the grants were awarded by the FAA. Well, Monroe Mayor Jamie Mayo had his briefing today, and he talked about a number of topics.
Well, those included drainage improvements. The city wants approval to accept bids to improve drainage on Davis Drive in South Monroe and Bayou Lane in North Monroe. They include new pipes, drains, and catch basins.
Our goal is to get it done as quickly as possible while we have favorable weather. That's why we're trying to get them done during the summer months of the year. But hopefully each one is roughly 90 days to 120 days long.
And the 2 projects will cost just over $430,000.
Well, a new law impacting farmers goes into effect July 1st. Farmers have to apply for certification as a commercial farmer by June 30th to get sales tax exemptions that include fuel, feed, seed, fertilizer, and livestock pharmaceuticals. Now, the R-1085, that form should be sent to the Department of Revenue.
Well, probation has now been lifted for Louisiana Delta Community College. State education leaders say the college has now satisfied their requirements. Delta was put on probation last June when the college failed to report student assessments and standard for financial responsibility. But they say Delta has now shown appropriate use of learning outcomes to assess all of its academic and technical credit programs. Meantime, Louisiana has issued its first permits to sell CBD products. 20 temporary permits were issued across the state after lawmakers recently approved those sales. Now, the permits will expire in February, and then permanent permits will be issued after they get certification.
Well, in health news, HIV testing day is this week, and Louisiana is offering some free screenings.
Yeah, they include Go Care in Monroe on June 26th from 8 to 4 on North 7th Street.
Louisiana has some of the highest STD rates in the United States, according to the CDC's 2017 surveillance report. Now, the state is #1 for congenital syphilis case rates, #2 for chlamydia case rates, and #3 for primary and secondary syphilis case rates. Also #3 for gonorrhea case rates.
Well, last night's storm left a family trapped in a state park after a downed tree blocked the road. The Pennington family reunion was wrapping up when they woke up this morning and couldn't get out. About 20 people were trapped in the RV area, but nobody was hurt. After almost 6 hours, the Pennington family was released and say they are grateful.
The guys did all they could to get that tree out of the way, and it's a beautiful park, beautiful place to come visit.
Although this wasn't the ending to their reunion that they had hoped for, they are glad it wasn't worse. They took their extra hours to order pizza and have some family time together. Meantime, a few thousand people in northeast Louisiana are still without power after those storms. Entergy says 248 people are still in the dark in Ouachita Parish. Concordia Parish has 663 people without power and 344 still without in Tensas Parish.
Well, people in parts of Bossier City are cleaning up after last night's storm. Neighbors say they saw trees snap apart and then fall. And this morning, a few members of the Cajun Navy were out camping, or helping, I should say, clean up and doing what they can to help those neighbors.
First the wind came, then the rain, and it got real dark and it turned ugly. And that's when I seen the trees start. The whole tree fell on the side of my house, and I heard a pop. So I just got down.
Neighbors say they have reached out to the Red Cross for assistance, and others from the community have stopped by to bring them food and water. Well, Diamond Jack's Casino and Hotel in Bossier is back open for business. It was evacuated last night after the first round of storms. Now, the floor had some minor damage to the boarding ramp, but crews repaired it overnight, and the casino is now back open.
Well, it's confirmed an EF1 tornado touched down in Raymond, Mississippi this morning.
And Patrick Ellis shows us how many tornadoes hit the state this month and how it happened.
Storms are commonplace around Mississippi, especially in the summer months. Typically, severe weather will take a bit of a backseat due to the atmospheric ingredients needed, such as wind shear to produce tornadoes, are not always present. 30 years ago, since 1989, we've only seen 5 June tornadoes in the WLBT and Fox 40 viewing area. While it's uncommon, it's not unheard of to have tornadoes develop this time of the year. What caused the tornado in Raymond last Monday was due to a very small-scale event. A weakening storm to the north sent out a gust front that ran into the storm just west of Raymond. That combination of storms produced the brief tornado that was on the ground for nearly 2.5 miles. Today's tornadoes were due to a much larger process. Storms moving in from the northwest to the southeast quickly turn easterly. This created a small belt of weak shear to allow for a brief tornado to touch down near the Big Black River and also near Raymond. The Raymond storm was actually on the ground only a mile away from the storm that developed last week.
Dividing some residents and the police jury, we have their reactions.
And New Orleans police released video of a shooting that injured one of their own.
Right now, KNOE 8 News Live at 10, your breaking news and weather authority.
Good evening to you. I'm Jennifer Andrews. Tonight, residents of Calhoun hold a town hall meeting.
I'm Jeff Horchak. Well, a lot was on the agenda, but for many residents, the most important thing was the future of the old experimental station. Courtney Cole joins us in studio with residents' reaction. Courtney?
Well, Jeff and Jennifer, the room was packed and arms were crossed tonight. You could literally feel the emotion in the air. Most residents contested the police jury's proposed plans for turning the site into a new business area. For one Calhoun resident, she says the space should be used for more critical situations like emergency services. Carol Lee Brown lost her father 19 years ago. She says that emergency crews took far too long to come help him. And if there was an emergency substation or fire department headquarters on the old property, others won't have to have that same experience.
You can have the best roads, the best water, the cheapest taxes, the most jobs, but if you're 6 feet under because help didn't get to you, then none of that matters.
It wasn't about voting, just simply a time for residents to voice their concerns. After all was said and done tonight, many said they felt like they didn't have a say and that they think the police jury has already made up their mind about the plans for the property.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Courtney. And other news, a change of plans tonight in Sterlington. The Board of Aldermen planned to vote on a measure that would give the town the highest sales tax in the country, but the vote was postponed to July 23rd.
However, they did take action to hike sewage rates starting next month. Perry Robinson joins us after tonight's meeting. Perry, what is the latest?
Well, Jeff, both residential and commercial customers in Sterlington will see a spike in their sewage rates starting next month. The increase passed at a 4-to-1 vote at tonight's meeting. Mayor Cesar Velasquez says the increase is meant to match the Department of Environmental Quality standards. The DEQ requires the town to operate at a 1.25% ratio, which means for every dead dollar, the town must bring in $1.25. Right now, the town is bringing in 80 cents per dead dollar. Residential customers will see their bill increase around $12 to $15 a month, while commercial customers can expect an $18 to $20 jump. The mayor expects this will generate an extra $200,000 annually for the town to help address their $21 million debt. Now, the new rate will go into effect for the month of July, so residents' August bill will reflect the increase. Jeff, Jennifer?
All right, thank you. We have new details tonight. The man accused of killing a former mayor of Winfield has now been arrested. News 6 in Tulsa, Oklahoma says O'Shea Booker was arrested today after a short standoff with police. He's wanted for the murder of Ronald Goff, his stepfather. Goff was killed 2 weeks ago at his home on Spillway Road in Wynn Parish. So far, there's no word on a motive. Officers will now work to extradite him back to Louisiana to stand trial.
Investigators in South Arkansas need your help with finding a man accused of killing 2 people, including a child. Camden police are looking for Jory Worthen. They say he was last seen possibly driving a white Honda Accord with Arkansas license plate 921YBE. Now, Worthen is accused of killing Alyssa Cannon and her 4-year-old son. Police found their bodies inside of her home this afternoon after she was reported missing by family members. If you know Worthen's whereabouts, you are asked to call police. Well, sad news out of Katy, Texas tonight. A 3-year-old boy has died after authorities say he found a gun in his family's home and then accidentally shot himself in the head. The little boy has been identified as Raiden Terrell. He was the cousin of former LSU football star and current Washington Redskins running back Darius Geis. According to local authorities, Terrell found a .38 caliber pistol in a bedroom Friday and then accidentally shot himself.
Well, the investigation continues after a New Orleans police officer was shot during a shootout at a drugstore, and now there's a video that shows part of it.
We got two in here.
Well, the video shows police confronting the suspects who drop a bag of pharmaceuticals before running away with their guns blazing. The officer was shot in the shoulder but continues firing along with 2 other officers. The suspects were injured and captured, the chief says. The video shows the suspects tried to order the officers to back off before they ran away.
They began to shout to the officers to get back. Officers took cover and asked the individuals to give up, and then they were fired upon. First shot struck Officer Clark in the shoulder.
The officer who was shot is recovering. All 3 are on desk duty while police investigate. Well, tensions between Iran and the U.S. may have a huge effect on Louisiana's oil and gas industry.
Sabrina Wilson sits down with a Tulane professor to talk about the impact.
Louisiana's oil and gas industry has reason to pay attention to the escalating tensions between the U.S. and Iran.
There's nothing that happens anywhere in the world that doesn't affect the price of crude oil and gasoline in the United States.
Professor Eric Smith with Tulane University says paying more at the pump could be a consequence.
I think you should reasonably expect that. The thing I would caution people against is don't overreact to a short-term effect.
There's growing concern Iran, in an effort to further aggravate the U.S. over the latest sanctions against it, could try to choke the critical Strait of Hormuz, which provides the only sea passage from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean.
Kuwait, which is one of the main producers of LNG in the world, every single ship has to come through the Straits of Hormuz. It's about 30% of the world's trade in LNG comes through those straits every day.
And liquefied natural gas is a big part of the oil and gas industry in Louisiana.
You do have these world tension issues that go on, and you have seen, a spike last week. The West Texas Intermediate went up about 10%, ending around $57 a barrel.
Even though Louisiana refineries count on heavy crudes from other places, the president of the Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas Association doesn't anticipate them being paralyzed if things really heat up in the Persian Gulf.
Even as there are escalating tensions in the Persian Gulf area and with Iran and things like that, South Louisiana is resilient and will make sure that we're able to keep producing product and meet customers' needs.
While the U.S. is producing more of its own oil, according to the federal government, in 2018, the U.S. imported nearly 10 million barrels a day of petroleum from other countries. Smith says transportation limits fuel the need for that.
We import a lot of gasoline into New York, right? New York Harbor and Philadelphia and all of those places. It's not because we can't make the gasoline, it's because the refineries up there aren't linked with enough pipeline capacity to the Gulf Coast. So we can't get it from here to there.
And on higher oil prices.
Some people might even welcome some sort of disruption because it would allow oil prices to increase and gasoline prices to increase.
KNOE has learned that the St. Francis North Hospital property is currently for sale.
Yeah, that campus located on 165 North was shut down in 2016. John Ray Realty says they're working with a Houston company to find a buyer. He says they're hoping to repurpose the building. Now, Kristen Wolcott, St. Francis CEO, says they are planning on major investments in the downtown location.
We have an update on the new medical school at ULM. The Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine has received initial approval from the Commission on Osteopathic College Accreditation. Now, ULM President Dr. Nick Bruno says that means that the school can recruit students for August of 2020. Now, the medical school is currently being built on campus along the bayou. The school will be partnering with local hospitals to help train students.
And we are still waiting for the first store in Northeast Louisiana to get a permit to sell CBD products. Yesterday, the Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control issued its first round of permits, and the closest city with a permit is Shreveport. Local businesses like Fiesta Nutrition have been selling CBD products for years and say now they're bracing for the impact.
These new restrictions are going to make it much harder for us to sell CBD in the state of Louisiana, and it's going to make it much harder for people to purchase CBD in the state of Louisiana.
Right now, 20 temporary permits have been issued. Permanent permits will be issued after the ATC gets confirmation from the health department. Now, the temporary permits will expire in February of 2020.
It's Professional Wellness Awareness Month, and advocates are reminding people about the dangers of burnout. Now, Kendra Jones is a mental health advocate. She says if you're feeling burned out, you don't have to change your lifestyle completely. She says having a morning routine and turning off social media notifications and taking a break can all help.
Instead of like trying to have like, okay, from 8 to 8:05, I'm going to do this, you know, like putting like a loose itinerary and blocking my day off into 4s. So I'll look at like a time block from like 9 to 12. And then I don't overload myself with tasks during that time, you know, and so doing that has been helpful too.
Now, Jones and her partner have created a platform called Laptop Lifestyle to help women entrepreneurs. We'll have a link to their new book on our website.
Coming up next, the U.S. House passes a $4.5 billion bill to address the border crisis. We've got the details.
And coming up, OCS's head coach Stephen Fatu accepts the KNOE 8 Gridiron Challenge. See how he fared coming up a little later in sports.